Welcome back, everyone, to the Horror Shed Podcast. I'm your gorgeous co-host, Jared. Down underneath here, we have the one, the only, South Jersey Jason.
What's going on?
What is up, man?
Not much. I'm like getting excited. I'm 8 days away from my favorite time of the year, Friday the 13th.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, what is new with you?
Man, I am just making videos out the ass. We have one dropping on the Haunts channel every day this week.
Damn. Yeah, I watched I watched so far the video from Reaper's Revenge, and let me tell you, what a freaking great time that was. I'm glad I got to experience it, and I'm doing like the media tour and doing a daytime tour just to see all the hard work everyone goes that puts into that. I mean, it was incredible, and like I was telling people, like you got to go, you got to go, you got to go. I make my friend Mickey the Clown went. I think she was there Saturday night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, she posted photos, and it was her first time going too.
How the hell hasn't
So.
Mickey been there yet?
Well, she was a haunt actress, at the one haunt that she worked at and never had the time. And she's not doing it anymore, at the one haunt she was at. So, but yeah, I just couldn't get over just I don't know what haunt will top that. I mean, Field of Screams is good in their own right, but there's something about Reapers that just like I mean, the only thing that would top it, in my opinion, would be obviously Universal Studios. But I
No,
mean,
it wouldn't top it for me. Because,
really
yeah, I mean, you're waiting in line for 2 hours at every house.
true.
You're rushed through every house. You don't get to
Yeah,
look at everything. So no.
yeah,
And honestly, is it really haunting when you have an unlimited budget?
true. Yeah, you got me there. Okay. But my favorite part of it was most definitely the hayride.
Yeah, we're gonna go more in depth with that on this channel too for the next episode because we're gonna do your stuff for the 13th and the
hmm
14th. I'll be there for some of it.
hmm
And yeah, so have you watched anything?
Yeah, actually, I binged the Insidious franchise last week because The Red Door came out on Blu-ray last week, and uh, I was so disappointed with The Red Door to finish their story. It was a major letdown for me, and I don't blame wow, what's his name? Josh, is it
Patrick
Josh?
Wilson?
Patrick Wilson. I don't blame him as a director. The script was just bad, so
That's not nice.
yeah, although I think this was the first Insidious movie where they had a song for the end credits,
Huh.
and I'm like, this singing sounds familiar. Patrick Wilson.
Wow, that's funny.
Yeah. I mean the red faced demon makes his appearance again, and I just wish there was a little bit more of like the two ghost hunters.
Okay.
Like they should have brought them in from a lot more than what they did. I mean, they did just a discredit by not having them more. And Lin Shay does make a cameo, but what I would like is if they just started doing more of just like when her character Elise was still alive,
Right.
and working with the two ghost hunters. Because I liked part three where it was like a prequel 3 years later or 3 years before, and then the last key was good as well. But yeah, the Red Door, I would say out of all the five movies, that's like the fifth.
That
Like
sucks.
yeah, yeah. Um, Anything else? Well, I started watching. Surprise, surprise, fell asleep. I On Sunday I put in Night of the Demons.
Okay.
Yeah, and then actually on Tubi, there was a documentary which I never even heard of, and I never even knew this. There was supposed to be a direct sequel to Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2,
Hmm.
and it was going to be a spin-off, and it was with Chop Top,
Oh, that's cool.
and it was called American Monster or something like that. So I started watching it last night, but fell asleep. And that's about it. What about you? Have you watched anything?
Uh,
Oh, Oh, I just saw that the new Haunted Mansion's on Disney Plus.
It is. They sneaked that on there because
Yeah.
I was just what was I on there for? I don't remember, but I saw it up there. Yeah, I'm gonna have to
Oh,
check that out.
my bunny said Red Door sucks.
Oh man, I've been looking so forward to that
I
movie
know
too.
you were. Yeah, you were looking forward to it.
I know I could wait till after haunt season to check it out though, so that's good.
Yeah, it'll probably be on a streaming platform by then.
Even better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched Hubie Halloween.
I was just thinking about watching that like this weekend. I love that movie.
That's a funny movie.
It's like it's like it could be like a unintentional sequel to The Waterboy.
It can. Then we watched Hocus Pocus because I never saw it.
What?
Um,
You've never seen Hocus
I didn't
Pocus?
fucking miss anything either.
It's a total chick flick, like I picture women wearing Uggs and sipping their pumpkin spice coffee while watching it,
And their flannels, yeah.
and their flannels.
And
Although,
their pumpkin patch flannel, yeah.
yeah, but come on, ice.
Oh my god, yeah, that brought back '93 heavily.
Yeah, although and I always had a crush on the main actress. So
Who
I can't
didn't?
hurt. Yeah, yeah.
I watched Idle Hands.
Okay.
Then what else? I finished Boardwalk Empire again,
Mm-hmm.
and then I started The League.
Oh, okay. With
So fucking funny.
he's funny though. I like him. The league. Oh no, the league is about the fantasy
Yeah, the fantasy football
Okay,
friends.
I never saw that.
Oh, you're
one,
missing
but
out. Even if you don't
really,
like football, that show is funny as
okay,
shit.
I'll check it out. Tomorrow night I'm gonna go see The Exorcist,
Oh yeah,
and it's already getting shitty reviews.
it is. But who gives a shit? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't care. I don't even look anymore. I mean,
Right. Excuse me.
it's everyone's. I talked to a lot of haunters this weekend and found a lot of funny shit out that I'll tell you about off air.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, Phillies are Red October, baby. That's all I gotta say. They won last night. They're on tonight at 8. They win, they move on. Can't wait.
Nice. So Ari Lehman stopped by unannounced at the Blairstown Diner the other night. Did you see that?
I did it.
Oh yeah, it was what's today? Wednesday, Monday night, I believe. He
Troy hopped in. Hey, you clicked the button, bro. I mean, I don't know how to.
Yeah, so his band and him were on their way. They're actually in Vermont, but I think they had a gig in Vermont and then are heading back to Massachusetts for a gig. But
They were in Maryland at the Fright. I think they had something to do with the Fright Reads convention or something.
Okay. Well, he was on live today and he said he was in Vermont. So I guess he's doing a show, but then coming back to Massachusetts. But yeah, so wherever they were coming from, they passed through Blairstown and had coffee at the diner. And he spoke with the manager, and maybe we'll see him next September.
Oh, very cool.
Speaking of which, by the time this airs on the podcast on their regular scheduled day, unless you're listening to it, Spirit Halloween will officially release their itinerary for Friday the 13th. So be on the lookout for that if you're watching it now. They're going to be there pretty much from like 10 to probably 6 or 7. You know, the one thing sucks? I do know they're going to have media there, but they're coming after I'm there, which sucks, but hey, whatever. It's all good in the hood. So I can't say what's going on because I sworn to secrecy as far as what they're doing during the day, but it's gonna be a lot of fun for the fans. I'm gearing up, man. I'm wondering when Brian's gonna release the video. Come on.
I know. Text his ass, but like, yo, man, you're not repping me.
Yeah, I was thinking about sending him a message. I figured he would probably do it like by Friday or something at least.
I haven't even bothered texting him. I know what he's going through right now.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I'm getting excited, man. I got six couples that I'm renewing their vows.
Sweet.
We're gonna have an appearance by Crazy Ralph as the crazy witness.
Oh, very cool.
And then Dave Brown is debuting his old man Leatherface. He's gonna wear down there. His costume looks sick.
Very cool.
So, yeah, so that's pretty much what's going on. Got a photo shoot this Sunday with our friend Ashley, and she's actually doing a podcast of her own on her Twitch channel.
Saw that.
Yeah, she started with the Menendez brothers, and now she's tonight she's doing
Slender
this
Man.
Slender Man. So I might check in and see what how she does. Yeah, she stopped doing the gaming Twitch and is focusing on the podcasting aspect, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
Another thing to listen to. Anything else on your end?
Another busy weekend.
Where are you going to this weekend?
We are hitting Lincoln Mill Haunted House, then the Conover Killings, then Markov's Haunted Forest, and then Lehigh Valley Scream Park.
God darn. Yeah, I wanted to go out with you on Sunday to Lehigh Valley since it's like 15 minutes from my house, but I'm doing the photo shoot like a little after 4, so I don't think I'll be back in time.
I gotcha. Yeah, we're gonna get there around 7 probably.
Yeah, I'll probably be finishing up probably around then, and then yeah, wouldn't make sense.
I gotta go
All
see
right.
this fucking DJ there. I mean,
Oh yeah, I hear that DJ. Mm,
Troy says Phillies postseason hurts haunt season. It does, but doesn't stop me.
right.
And I've suffered through 41 years of shitty Phillies season. So guess what? I'm cool with them making the playoffs. And they're going to go deep because it's haunt season and it's going to be like last year.
There you go. There you go. Hey, did you hear we continue to hear Taylor Swift and Kelsey, if you forgot about it,
Nope, don't
they're
care.
still at least it's kind of slowing down now. But the next thing I'm hearing now, this is not Taylor Swift related, but Friday the 13th related. Blumhouse wants to get the franchise to Friday the 13th. I'm like, do you really want to kill another franchise? Like,
Apparently they do.
You want to have a monopoly on all the franchises?
That's a bad group to have it.
Yeah. And then I don't know how true this is. I saw it late last night. I didn't get a chance to really investigate today, but someone shared Nicolas Cage made a post that he
Yeah, I
got the
couldn't tell
rights
if
to
that
hunt.
was real or not.
Yeah, I was like, no.
Is he out of tax debt? Because that didn't come cheap.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I know they are shopping around for a TV series based on Season of the Witch, which I think would be pretty cool.
That's
Like
cool. I
like a
still got to
limited
watch that
series.
movie.
You haven't watched that, you son of a bitch. You need to watch it like soon. Like when you're on the road next, please watch it. It could be like its own franchise because it's not nothing to do with Michael Myers, but it's got such a cool premise to it. And there is actually a fan film that I back called The Third Channel, and it's supposed to be it's a follow up to the events. So I would love, hopefully, it's coming out soon.
Oh,
But yeah,
before we move on, Troy says, Brian, get your butt to the haunt. Okay.
well,
I know.
I would love to go out. Maybe I'll just go out by myself. Well, you know what? I don't got anything going on Saturday, but it's supposed to rain. So
But we got to field test the equipment finally.
yeah, and it came out great.
How fucking much better did that look?
It looked better, sounded a hell of a lot better, and I know it got you stoked for our next filming
I'm
location.
so excited now. I just want to hit the ground running with a bunch of them.
Oh, so I got some exciting news. Chris and Greg, remember them from iHeart Horror?
Yes.
I spoke with them for about an hour last night, and they're promoting part 2, which is going to be in February, same place. We're going to be raising money for Deborah Heart and Lung, and they're going to put me on the poster.
Oh, cool.
Because they asked if I would want that because they considered me part of their little family, and which I thought was like awesome. So the poster right now is like Sackhead Jason, and it says like I Heart Horror part 2, and the heart is like in the eye socket of Sackhead.
Oh, that's cool.
And they're going to put like featuring South Jersey Jason. And I said, well, because at first they asked me if I could wear my NES costume. But then I said, if you have Sackhead on the poster, I'll get my costume guy to do the part 2 for me. It's like real quick costume to put together. So so I'm going to be doing that. It's scheduled for February 10th in Sayreville, and they invited us, you and me, to come out in January to do filming location for Charles Addams' house, so they can give us a tour of the creator of the Addams Family.
Uh-huh.
so they would like for us to come out for that.
Okay.
And then I had talked to him about the shark attacks of Matawan,
Yeah.
and he's gonna talk to the guy that does the tour to give us a tour and put it for our page.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so we'll do that like next spring or summer or something.
Yeah.
So
It'd be cool to see
yeah.
that bridge that has the shark on it.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. My bunny, I totally agree with you.
He's all right.
You know, I got a really nice compliment from a friend. He commented on my picture of my new cosplay Ghost Jason, and he says it looks better than the actual fan film. And I'm like, that's a great compliment, but I wouldn't go that far. I would say it's right up there, you know.
Hmm.
So I got a lot of great feedback from that costume. So I'm
Oh,
anxious to do.
and before we move on with the
Uh-huh.
subject tonight, Friday the 13th, if you're a fan, head to Valley of Fear in Trevose, Pennsylvania, because there's a whole Camp Blood scene, and it's out fucking standing.
Yeah, there was a couple of Jasons there, right? You said
There's more than a couple.
okay, and there was a sleeping bag
There was a
kill.
sleeping bag incident, yes.
Nice, that's awesome.
All right, well,
Okay.
I think I'm all caught up. Yeah.
Okay. So there is so much to talk about Friday the 13th. I would talk hours and hours. So I
Now,
got
let's
some
start somewhere before we hop into this crazy amount of information we have here.
okay.
Where the hell did the Friday the 13th start for you?
I was young. I want to say 6 or 7 when you only had a few amount of channels, and the one channel that we got was WPIX out of New York. And every October they would play Shocktober, and they would do maybe a franchise for the week. And that's where I became first introduced to Friday the 13th. And I remember watching it. And I really didn't really pay attention to all the details. It wasn't until I was a little older when I was watching it, the first one, and on Enos's truck, it said, I forget the name of the town, maybe Columbia, New Jersey, or something, New Jersey. I'm like, what? It was filmed in New Jersey? And then I watched the credits, and it said Blairstown, New Jersey. So, I looked up on a road atlas because that's what you used back then, and I saw where Blairstown was, and it wasn't actually until 2010 when I was camping up in Sussex County. I was Googling Blairstown to see how far away it was from where I was. It was only half an hour. So, and it's funny because on my memories, it came up 13 years ago. I was camping at Harmony Ridge Campgrounds and visited Blairstown for the first time. And Main Street, which has the arches, back then there was a lot of shuttered businesses. So it looked pretty much like it did in 1979 when they were making the movie. And then I didn't return to Blairstown until 2019.
Gotcha.
So yeah, so that's when it started for me.
So
Very
you
young
saw
age.
the original first.
Yeah. Yep.
For
Yep.
me, I saw four first.
Oh,
That was,
that's still a great movie to
oh, without
start
a
on.
doubt, that was the that was the first one I saw because my uncle taped Nightmare 1 and 2, and then I had Friday 4.
Okay. Okay. Nice. That's such a great movie. It was so like part three, obviously it's iconic as he gets to Hawk, and Richard Brooker did such a great job because he was very menacing, but Ted White took it up a notch, in part four. And he is to this date the oldest person to play Jason. He was 58 years old.
Damn.
His last movie he did as a stunt actor was the Fast and the Furious, the first one. He was a driver, and he was 80. So, God rest his soul. But yeah, four is such a great movie, man.
It
Like
is.
when I first watched it, I was truly scared because of just how he was. Like when he came first crashing through the window and grabbed Corey Feldman, and then he broke the door open and threw the hammer at Trish. I was like, damn, man, and then I think it was a little repetitive when Tommy was just like chopping them a lot and going,
Yeah,
die,
a little,
die,
little,
die.
little
And
too much at
he,
the end, but
he
yeah.
he did his little haircut and everything, and then they left it like open ended, like now it's Tommy possessed, and that's the route they were going to go. But I'm glad they didn't go that route.
Took a little U-turn there.
Yeah.
All right, let's play the trailer before we hop into this.
Hello? Who's that? Oh, hi. What are you doing out in this mess?
1, 2, 3,
We weren't doing anything. We were just messing up.
4, 5, 6,
Must be my imagination.
7,
Can I help you? Hello?
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, Friday, the 13th. You may only see it once, but that will be enough. Friday, the 13th.
Friday the 13th.
Such a classic I love trailers like that. I wish they
I wish
Which
that
is-
guy who does the voiceovers for all of
the
them
voice,
would
yes.
live forever because
I
he
know.
was so badass.
That's when trailers were great.
Uh-huh.
And his voice. He's like the movie trailer guy is like just as famous as like Peter Cullen, who does Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we all want Peter Cullen to live forever. So let's welcome BJ Crowder from Virginia, first time watcher.
Oh, welcome.
He is Friday 13th is his shit. He's got some great autographs from people that you would never expect. Like he's got the autograph from Ron Milkey's stunt motorcycle driver.
Oh shit.
Yeah. He's gonna be coming up on the 12th. He's staying overnight at Camp Crystal Lake, and then he'll be at the diner during the day. And so he's an avid listener. He listens like when on his way to work or whatnot. He's it's funny because he's a pastor. He's a principal during the week and then the pastor, and then he's a big Friday 13th fan. So welcome, BJ. All right. So there is so much information with Friday the 13th. I would be here all night talking about it. So I kind of had to just put in the meat and the potatoes, and I left out like the dessert, like we normally will do trivia and stuff, but I might, throw in some things here and there. But let's get started with the review of Friday the 13th. All right. So Friday the 13th is a 1980 American independent slasher film produced and directed by Sean S. Cunningham, written by Victor Miller and starring Betsy Palmer, Adrienne King, Harry Crosby, Laurie Bartram, Mark Nelson, Janine Taylor, Robbie Morgan, and Kevin Bacon. Its plot follows a group of teenage camp counselors who are murdered one by one by an unknown killer while they are attempting to reopen an abandoned summer camp with a tragic past. Oh, let me get my mouse here. All right. So, prompted by the success of John Carpenter's Halloween, director Cunningham put out an advertisement to sell the film in Variety in early 1979 while Miller was still drafting the screenplay. After casting the film in New York City, filming took place in New Jersey in the summer of 1979 on an estimated budget of $550,000. A bidding war ensued over the finished film, ending with Paramount Pictures acquiring the film for domestic distribution while Warner Brothers secured international distribution rights.
Huh.
Released on May 9th, 1980, Friday the 13th was a major box office success, grossing $59.8 million worldwide. Critical response was divided, with some praising the film's cinematography and score, while numerous others derided it for its depiction of graphic violence. Aside from being the first independent film of its kind to secure distribution in the U.S. by a major U.S. studio, its box office success led to a long series of sequels, a crossover with the Nightmare on Elm Street film series, and a 2009 series reboot. So,
is it a series reboot because there was no more after that? So I'm just calling it like a reimagining of the original.
Yeah, that's how I would say.
I mean, it did have Easter eggs from the other movies, but there wasn't any more, so you can't call it a series reboot.
Yeah, correct. And when I was so pumped when I saw that in the movie theater, and I wish we got one more with Derek Mears because that was the first movie in a while that made my blood pressure go up. That music when he's running, like I was getting warm inside. It got panned by the fans, but I liked it because it had some.
The opening 20 minutes were enough to like Jason's fucking moving. He's running.
Yeah.
He's like holy shit. And then like you see the wheelchair down there, homage to 4, or I'm sorry, 2. And then there was some other shit in there that you noticed from other movies.
All right, so Friday the 13th was produced and directed by Sean S. Cunningham, who had previously worked with filmmaker Wes Craven on the film The Last House on the Left. Cunningham, inspired by John Carpenter's Halloween, wanted Friday the 13th to be shocking, visually stunning, and make you jump out of your seat. Wanting to distance himself from The Last House on the Left, Cunningham wanted Friday the 13th to be more of a roller coaster ride. The original screenplay was tentatively called A Long Night at Camp Blood. While working on a redraft of the screenplay, Cunningham proposed the title Friday the 13th, after which Miller began redeveloping. Cunningham rushed out to place an advertisement in Variety using the Friday 13th title. Worried that someone else owned the rights to the title and wanting to avoid potential lawsuits, Cunningham thought it would be best to find out immediately. He commissioned a New York advertising agency to develop his concept of the Friday 13th logo, which consisted of a big block letters bursting through a pane glass. In the end, Cunningham believed there were no problems with the title, but distributor George Mansour stated, "There was a movie before ours called Friday the 13th, The Orphan. It was moderately successful, but someone still threatened to sue. Either Phil Scuderi paid them off, but it was finally resolved." The screenplay was completed in mid-1979 by Victor Miller, who later went on to write for several soap operas, including Guiding Light, One Life to Live, and All My Children. Excuse me. At the time, Miller was living in Stratford, Connecticut, near Cunningham, and the two had begun collaborating on potential film projects. Miller delighted in inventing a serial killer who turned out to be somebody's mother, a murderer whose only motivation was her love for her child. I took motherhood and turned it on its head, and I think that was great fun. Mrs. Voorhees was the mother I always wanted, a mother who would have killed for her kids. Miller was unhappy about the filmmaker's decision to make Jason Voorhees the killer in the sequels. Jason was dead from the very beginning. He was a victim, not a villain. The idea of Jason appearing at the end of the film was initially not used in the original script. In Miller's final draft, the film ended with Alice merely floating on the lake. Jason's appearance was actually suggested by makeup designer Tom Savini. Savini stated that the whole reason for the cliffhanger at the end was, "I had just seen Carrie, so we thought that we need a chair jumper like that, and I said, let's bring in Jason," which,
is an awesome scene.
Yeah, like I love that end where she wakes up on the canoe and just Harry Manfredini's score. It's a lovely, very a soft tempo. And the police, you see the police come in, and Alice is waking up, and she's like putting her hand in the water, and then all of a sudden we have young 12-year-old Jason jumping out of the water, grabbing her by her, her top of her under her neck and pulling her back in. Was it a dream? Did it really happen? Who's to know? The cop said, Officer Tierney said, the boy, we didn't find any boy. Then he's still there. And then it goes back to that great music again of just a shot of the lake. I love that melody right there. All right. So casting, a New York-based film headed by Julia Hughes and Barry Moss was hired to find 8 young actors to play the camp staff members. Cunningham admits that he was not looking for great actors, but anyone that was likable and appeared to be a responsible camp counselor. The way Cunningham saw it, the actors would need to look good, read the dialogue somewhat well, and work cheap. Moss and Hughes were happy to find 4 actors, Kevin Bacon, Laurie Bartram, Peter Brower, and Adrienne King, who had previously appeared on soap operas. The role of Alice Hardy was set up as an open casting call, a publicity stunt used to attract more attention to the film. The producers originally wanted Sally Field for the role of Alice, but realized that they could not afford an established high-profile actress and went for unknown actors instead, which that's a great way to go. Well, one, you can't afford it, but if you make any movie today, and it's either a horror movie or, specifically a horror movie, and Brad Pitt's casting it, Brad Pitt's not going to die.
Yeah.
So it's smart how they did that. So according to Adrienne King, originally the producers were looking really hard for a name actress to play Alice. They finally realized that even if they could find somebody like that who was willing to do it, they wouldn't be able to afford her. So they decided to go with Newtown instead. King earned an audition primarily because she was the friend of someone working in Moss and Hughes' office, and Cunningham felt she embodied the qualities of Alice. After she auditioned, Moss recalls Cunningham commenting that they saved the best actress for last. As Cunningham explains, he was looking for people that could behave naturally, and King was able to show that to him in the audition. With King cast in the role of lead heroine Alice, Laurie Bartram was hired to play Brenda. Kevin Bacon, Mark Nelson, and Janine Taylor, who had known each other prior to the film, were cast as Jack, Ned, and Marcy, respectively. It is Bacon and Nelson's contention that because the 3 already knew each other, they already had the specific chemistry the casting director was looking for in the roles of Jack, Ned, and Marcy. Taylor has stated that Hughes and Moss were highly regarded while she was an actress, so when they offered her an audition, she felt that whatever the part, it would be good opportunity. Friday the 13th was Nelson's first feature film, and when he went in for his first audition, the only thing he was given to read were some comedic scenes. Nelson received a call back for a second audition, which required him to wear a bathing suit, which Nelson acknowledges made him start to wonder if something was off about this film. He did not fully realize what was going on until he got the part and was given the full script to read. Nelson explains, it certainly was not a straight dramatic role, and it was only after they offered me the part that they gave me the full script to read, and I realized how much blood was in it. Nelson believes that Ned used humor to hide his insecurities, especially around Brenda, whom the actor believes Ned was attracted to. And I don't blame Ned. Out of all the cast members in the first one, I thought Laurie Bartram was like the hottest to me. She just was very simple girl next door, very beautiful woman. And unfortunately, we lost her way too soon to cancer. And, she never got to be on the convention scene. Let's see. So Nelson recalls an early draft of the script stating that Ned suffered from polio and his legs were deformed while his upper body was muscular. Ned is believed to have given birth to the practical Joker victim of horror films. According to author David Grove, there was no equivalent character in John Carpenter's Halloween or Bob Clark's Black Christmas before that. He served as a model for the slasher films that would follow Friday the 13th. The part of Bill was given to Harry Crosby, son of Bing Crosby. Robbie Morgan, who played Annie, was not auditioning for the film when she was offered the role while in her office. Hughes looked at Morgan and proclaimed, "You're a camp counselor." The next day, Morgan was on the set. Morgan only appeared on set for a day to shoot all of her scenes. So her character, you thought she was going to be the final girl, but they threw in a Alfred Hitchcock, Freudian, like how they did with Janet Leigh in Psycho. She was thought to be the main actress, and she's killed off within the first half an hour. So Rex Everhart, who portrayed Enos, did not film the truck scenes with Morgan, so she had to either act with an imaginary Enos or exchange dialogue with Tazo Stravakis, Savini's assistant, who would sit in the truck with her. It was Peter Brower's girlfriend that helped him land a role on Friday the 13th. After recently being written off the show Love of Life, Brower moved back to Connecticut to look for work. Learning that his girlfriend was working as an assistant director for Friday the 13th, Brower asked about any openings. Initially told casting was looking for big stars to fill the role of Steve Christie. It was not until Sean Cunningham dropped by to deliver a message to Brower's girlfriend and saw him working in the garden that Brower was hired. Estelle Parsons, you know who that is?
No.
Estelle Parsons, I first was introduced to her in the Poseidon Adventure. She was like the older woman who was like, if you ever saw that of Gene Hackman, she was the one that went underwater and, you know, was a good swimmer. But people more in our age would remember her as Roseanne's Nana from the TV show Roseanne. Do you remember that character?
Yeah.
She was initially asked to portray the film's killer, Mrs. Voorhees, but declined with her agent, citing that the film was too violent and did not know what kind of actress would play such a part. Shelley Winters, oh no, I'm sorry, not Estelle Parsons. I'm totally wrong. Shelley Winters was Nana on Roseanne. Estelle Parsons, I know the name, I just can't place her. So Shelley Winters was also offered the role, but turned it down. Hughes and Moss sent a copy of the script to Betsy Palmer in hopes that she would accept the part. Have you ever seen pictures of Betsy Palmer like in her younger years?
Yeah.
Was she attractive? Such a beautiful woman. All right. So Palmer could not understand why someone would want her for a part in a horror film, as she had previously starred in films such as Mr. Roberts, The Angry Man, and The Tin Star. Palmer only agreed to play the role because she needed to buy a new car, even when she believed the film to be a piece of shit. And that's why she was so late to the convention scene, too. Like, she didn't get into it until the early 2000s, and she was so, like, amazed of, like, the fans and how much they loved not only the franchise, but Mrs. Voorhees. Stavrakis subbed for Betsy Palmer as well, which involved Morgan's character being chased through the woods by Mrs. Voorhees, although the audience only sees a pair of legs running after Morgan. Palmer had just arrived in town when those scenes were about to be filmed and was not in the physical shape necessary to chase Morgan around the woods. Morgan's training as an acrobat assisted her in these scenes, as her character was required to leap out of a moving jeep when she discovers that Mrs. Voorhees does not intend to take her to camp. Betsy Palmer explains how she developed the character of Mrs. Voorhees. Being an actress who uses this Stanislavski method, I always try to find details about my character. With Pamela, I began with a class ring that I remember reading in the script that she'd worn. Starting with that, I traced Pamela back to my own high school days in the early 1940s. So it's 1944, a very conservative time, and Pamela has a steady boyfriend. They have sex, which is very bad, of course, and Pamela soon gets pregnant with Jason. The father takes off, and when Pamela tells her parents, they disown her because having babies out of wedlock isn't something that good girls do. I think she took Jason and raised him the best she could, but he turned out to be a very strange boy. She took lots of odd jobs, and one of those jobs was a cook at a summer camp. Then Jason drowns and her whole world collapses. What were the counselors doing instead of watching Jason? They were having sex, which is the way she got into trouble. From that point on, Pamela became very psychotic and this is a big word, puritanical in her attitudes, as she was determined to kill all of the immoral camp counselors. Cunningham wanted to make the Mrs. Voorhees character terrifying, and he believed it was important that Palmer not act over the top. There was also the fear that Palmer's past credits as more of a wholesome character would make it difficult to believe she could be scary. Palmer was paid $1,000 per day for her 10 days on set. Ari Lehman, who had previously auditioned for Cunningham's Manny's Orphans, failing to get the part, was determined to land the role of Jason Voorhees. According to Lehman, he went in very intense, and afterward, Cunningham told him he was perfect for the part. In addition to the main cast, Walt Gorney came on as Crazy Ralph, the town soothsayer. It's got a death curse. Going to Camp Blood, ain't ya? The character of Crazy Ralph was meant to establish two functions: foreshadow the events to come and insinuate that he could actually be the murderer. Cunningham has stated that he was apprehensive about including the character and is not sure if he accomplished his goal of creating a new suspect. And this is what always bugged me about Friday the 13th Part 2. He tells them not to go to camp. What does he do? He goes to camp. And not only the first one, and the second one. How does he die? By being a damn peeping Tom. Okay? So if Crazy Ralph just listened to his own advice, he would probably be still, well, he wouldn't be alive, but he would live to tell another tale.
That's true.
All right. So filming. Now, you know all too well where the filming locations were.
We will have a link in this video.
Nice. The film was shot in and around the townships of Hardwick, Blairstown, and Hope in Warren County, New Jersey in September 1979. The camp scenes were shot on a working Boy Scout camp, Camp Novi Bosco, which is located in Hardwick. The camp is still standing and still operates as a summer camp. The cinematography in the film employs recurrent point of view shots from the perspective of the villain. Now, BJ, who is watching, he's going to camp next Thursday and he's spending the night over there because they're doing the tour Friday the 13th weekend. And funny, here's a little trivia for you. The Camp Novi Bosco wasn't the original camp that they were going to film at. When they were going back to get things ready, they got lost and stumbled upon Camp Novi Bosco. And they're like, whoa, this is actually better than the original camp because it's more shittier looking than the original one. So it worked out well. And man, let me tell you, if I won the lottery, I would give a blank check to the Boy Scouts and say, how much do you want? And then I would turn it into like what Camp Daniel Morgan does in Atlanta, you know, and they let you stay there for pennies on the dollar, basically, compared to what Crystal Lake Tour does, or turn it like into an Airbnb type thing. You know, the money you could make from that. And I would restore it to how it looked in 1979. So we got Tom Savini, who was hired to design the film's special effects based upon his work in George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Savini's contributions included crafting the effects of Marcy's axe wound to the face, the arrow penetrating Jack's throat, and Mrs. Voorhees' decapitation of the machete. During the filming of the fight sequence between King and Palmer's characters, Palmer suggested rehearsing the scene based on her theater training. I said to Adrian that night, why don't we rehearse the scene? I have to slap you. Because on stage, when you slap somebody, you slap them. While rehearsing, Palmer slapped King in the face and she began crying. She collapsed to the floor, crying, Sean, she hit me. I said, well, of course I hit her. We were rehearsing the scene, he said. No, Betsy, we don't hit people in movies. We miss them. All right, so we're going to get talking about Harry Manfredini and the music. He scored all the movies with the exception of Part 8, and I think that was it. I forget which ones, if he didn't do any other ones. When Harry Manfredini began working on the musical score, the decision was made to only play music when the killer was actually present so as to not manipulate the audience. Manfredini pointed out the lack of music for certain scenes. There's a scene where one of the girls is setting up the archery area. One of the guys shoots an arrow into the target and just misses her. It's a huge scare, but if you notice, there's no music. That was a choice. Manfredini also noted that when something was going to happen, the music would cut off so that the audience would relax a bit and the scare would be that much more effective. Because the killer, Mrs. Voorhees, appears on screen only during the final scenes of the film, Manfredini had the job of creating a score that would represent the killer in her absence. Manfredini borrows from the 1975 film Jaws, where the shark is likewise not seen for the majority of the film, but the motif created by John Williams cued the audience to the shark's invisible menace. Sean S. Cunningham sought a chorus, but the budget would not allow it. While listening to a Christoph Penderecki piece of music, which contained a chorus with striking pronunciations, Manfredini was inspired to recreate a similar sound. He came up with the sound, but people for all the years thought it was
So you heard the stupid one where they thought it was an advertisement for Jiffy Pop?
No. Oh, brother.
Yeah. And a little trivia. John Williams, you know, he's been nominated for over 50 Oscars.
I believe it.
That's insane.
I wonder how many he's won.
I'd have to
know?
look, but I know I
Yeah.
was listening to a podcast with Spielberg, and he said he's been nominated for over 50 Oscars.
Wow, that's incredible. All right. So to achieve the unique sound he wanted for the film, Manfredini spoke the two words harshly, distinctively, and rhythmically into a microphone and ran them into an echo reverberation machine. Manfredini finished the original score after a couple of weeks and then recorded the score in a friend's basement. Victor Miller and assistant editor Jay Cooper have commented on how memorable the music is, with Cooper describing it is iconographic. Manfredini says everybody thinks it's cha cha cha. I'm like, cha cha cha. What are you talking about? In 1982, Graham Vision Records released an LP record of selected pieces of Harry Manfredini's scores from the first three Friday 13th films. On January 13th, 2012, La La Land Records released a limited edition 6 CD box set containing Manfredini's scores from the first 6 films. It sold out in less than 24 hours, and they actually released it a year or two ago. So I have the first 8 on CD. And then if you've ever been to the Hamilton Mall, the Rock Shop, I found the vinyl, not the waxwork one with the blood, but another one that has really cool artwork for $10. So I actually had Harry Manfredini sign that last year. I have 3 autographs by him, a regular 8x10. I have the musical score and the vinyl. And when he autographs like his 8x10s, he'll put like part of the score in there.
Oh, that's cool.
Such a great guy to talk to too. All right, so we talked about some of the cast. I'll go over some other people. So let's see. We had Ron Carroll as Sargentini or Tierney, Walt Gorney as Crazy Ralph, Willie Adams as Barry. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us because shortly after Friday the 13th, he passed away in a car accident. He was the camp counselor in the beginning with Claudette. Deborah S. Hayes as Claudette. She actually came out of the woodworks last year. My friend Stacy Lee, who is a booking agent of CMV Promotions, she tracked her down. I think she was living out in California. She had no idea about anything about Friday the 13th, the conventions and stuff. So
how do you not know with social media?
If you're off the grid, like you are not on social media. So she did her first Monster Mania last year. And then she was at camp back in June when I was there. And Stacy was kind enough to get me an autograph when she was at Monster Mania. We have Sally Ann Golden as Sandy the waitress, and then Ari Lehman as Jason. So the only autographs out of like the really main characters that are eluding me are Harry Crosby, Laurie Bartram, because obviously she passed away, Kevin Bacon, Mark Nelson, and Peter Brower. Peter Brower, he's older. He's never seen the reactions of the conventions. He doesn't think, well, why would anyone come see me? That dude would make so much money if he came out. We want to get him at the diner in the worst possible way. I mean, that would be like, my bucket list of the entire franchise. All right, so let's get into this plot. In 1958, at Camp Crystal Lake, 2 counselors sneak inside a cabin to have sex, where an unseen assailant murders them. We have Barry and Claudette. They sneak away from singing Kumbaya, and they're going to have premarital sex. And people always said, well, why did they die? Well, they're the ones that were responsible for Jason drowning. They weren't paying attention. So in present day, camp counselor and cook Annie Phillips is driven halfway to the reopened Camp Crystal Lake. So we open up, she's walking through town, and then, she goes to the diner and she's like, excuse me, how far it is to Camp Crystal Lake? And like the record just like screeches, and a little trivia. Everyone in that scene were actors or extras, except for one guy. If you pan all the way to the left, there's an old man like eating cereal or whatever. He was actually a patron. He was like, I ain't fucking getting out of here. I pay for this meal. I want to eat. So he was actually a resident of the town. Enos, the driver, decides he'll bring her halfway. And as they're driving, he's like, she's talking about what she's going to be doing, and she's always like working with kids. So he begins to tell her about the Camp's Trouble past, beginning when the young boy drowned in Crystal Lake, and then the water went bad, and then there was a fire, and obviously, as we come to find out at the end of the movie, it was caused by Mrs. Voorhees. So I'm gonna say trying to Stacy's fans on Facebook. Yeah, Stacy's we got Oracle 684. Thanks for chiming in. Stacy's a wonderful person. I've known her for a few years now, and she's got CMV Promotions, and she's got a great talent list. She has a lot of the Friday 13th members, and because of her, I was able to get autographs through private signings when they are, if she's with them at a convention. So after being dropped off at the halfway point, Annie hitches another ride from an unseen person who eventually slashes her throat. She's talking to the person and everything's all right. But then when she passes the entrance to Camp Crystal Lake, the music intensifies. And then she basically jumps out of the Jeep. She's pursued by this unknown assailant and gets her throat slashed. It looks great if you watch it in the original format. But if you watch it like in Blu-ray or up, you can totally see the prosthetics. At the camp, or prior to getting to the camp, we're introduced to Ned, Jack, Bill, and Marcy. They're driving to Camp Crystal Lake. This is where we will also meet Brenda and Alice, along with owner Steve Christie. They're refurbishing the cabins, and I gotta tell you, man, if I had the body like Steve Christie, I'd wear some cutoff shorts too, and thermal socks with work boots. That's my next cosplay when I drop about 40 pounds. Okay?
Please don't.
So basically, Steve's giving them a list of things to do. They have to go work on this. So so then, this is when we get to really kind of meet them a little. Actually, before that, Alice is, doing work on the cabin, and I have to tell you, she's got very horrible hammering skills. So Steve is like, I think he's a pervert because he likes her. Obviously, there's an age difference, I believe. And, she came from California to help him. How they know each other, we never got that established. But she's an artist. And she basically did a Jack from Titanic on him the previous night and, drew him. And apparently there's some rift because she wants to go. And he's like, give me another week. If you don't like it, I'll put you on the bus myself. So he gets ready to go into town. He's given him a list of things to do. And so they're going to just, swim for a little bit. And this is when we get the comical of, who is it? Bill. He pretends to drown. That's when we see Kevin Bacon's Bacon Bits, and the little Speedo he's wearing. And they go to rescue him, and as Brenda's doing mouth to mouth, that's when he starts to kiss her. And then shortly after that, we have the snake in the cabin. Now, this is the one thing that's pretty shitty. They got this snake wrangler to bring in the snake, who's his pet. That wasn't a fake snake they killed. That was a real snake. He didn't know that was going to happen. Obviously, the SPCA was not on set during this, but the snake wrangler was so upset, like he did not realize you just killed my pet snake. And then we're introduced to Officer Dorf.
Officer Dorf.
This was a character that wasn't in the original script. Cunningham wanted a little bit of comedic relief, and that's played by Ron Milkey. I apologize. Who has my handsome diner guy 6x6 hanging on his fridge. I'll let you know. And he was like, looking at Officer Dorf, you would think he's like in his 40s, right? He was like 28. Like people that back then, I don't know they had hard lives. I don't know. But, those crazy one-liners. I'm looking for a man that goes by the name Ralph, town drunk. Every time he gets to call in, he spends a weekend in jail, and I get Monday in at the court. What you been smoking, boy? The pot reefer, whatever his little monologue is, But obviously, the best one-liner is, "We ain't gonna stand for no weirdness out here." So after he leaves, that's when they meet Crazy Ralph, He's given his prophecy. But then as the thunderstorm approaches, we get Jack and Marcy walk in, and she's telling this story of when it rained blood. And Kevin Bacon, man, I don't know who gave him that line. Whoa, the wind shifted 120 degrees. It's gonna storm down here like a mother. Like, oh, okay, you can tell it's 120 degrees. So they go into a cabin, or actually prior to that, Ned or Jack or Bill's by himself, and he sees a mysterious figure going into the cabin. So he's going to go investigate. And then, Jack and Marcy are going to go canoodle, because that's what counselors did. And after a couple of minutes, he's smoking some grass, and she's going to go to the bathroom. And then you get probably, in my opinion, the best kill of the movie, when the arrow comes through his throat. And they actually had an issue with that effect, because the way there was like a clog in the line. So that's why it sputters like that. And then as they're having sex, we get the thunder lightning of poor Bill that's above them dead. All right. So let's see. Marcy leaves for the bathroom. So Marcy's in the bathroom. The killer kills Marcy next with an axe. Now, a little trivia. That's not a real bathroom. It's actually a cabin, and they put a facade in there. When I met Janine Taylor at camp, who played Marcy, like, I didn't know she was going to be there, and that's when we found out like that was like the bathroom and everything. So it was really cool. But so back at the other cabin, we have Brenda, Ned, and Alice. They're gonna play some strip Monopoly and smoke some grass, as I like to call it. And it's funny, like Brenda's character, she's like this goody, and she wants to play strip Monopoly. But in real life, Laurie Bartram was like a Mormon, I believe. And that was like her one and only horror movie that she did, because she didn't realize like what it really entailed, So after the door gets blown open by the wind, Monopoly money goes over, party's over. And then Brenda's like, I think I left my window open. So she's going back to her cabin. She's getting ready for bed. And then she hears a voice, help me, stuff like that. So she goes to investigate. She's out in the archery range, and the lights come on. And then she's killed off screen, so we never know how she dies. So a little time passes. Worried by their friend's disappearance, Alice and Bill investigate. They find an axe in Brenda's bed, and the phone's disconnected. And when she finds the axe, she's like, what is going on? So we flash to the Blairstown Diner, and Steve's having his final meal. He's got Sandy, the waitress, he says, what do I owe you? Oh, just a night on the town, but it's $1.25. I'm like, damn, I want dinner and coffee for $1.25. Sure as hell can't even get a coffee for $1.25 now.
Hell no.
So another little tidbit. So because the producers didn't have a lot of money, the Jeep that Steve Christie drives and the Jeep that Mrs. Voorhees drives are the same Jeep. So to kind of make it look like two different Jeeps, Mrs. Voorhees had the top up, Steve had the top down. So there's a little trivia there for you. But it also kind of gave you like a red herring. You see his Jeep, towards the beginning of the movie. Could he be the killer? All right, so Steve is trying to go back to Camp Crystal Lake. His car breaks down. Officer Tierney sees him, picks him up, and they're driving, and Officer Tierney gets a call about something going on. So Steve has to walk the rest of the way. He gets to where the sign is, and a light goes on, and he says, what are you doing out in this mess? And then so obviously he knew the killer. When the power goes out, Bill goes to check on the generator. Alice finds his body pinned with arrows to the door. Now, if you pause at just the right moment, you are going to see how mad Mrs. Voorhees is, because he's got 2 arrows in the nuts. So so when she sees that, she flees to the main cabin where Brenda's body is thrown through the window. A little trivia, that was Tom Savini. Mrs. Voorhees, a middle-aged woman who claims to be a friend of Steve's, arrives. She reveals that her son Jason was a young boy who drowned in 1957, and she blames the death on neglect by the counselors because they were having sex instead of supervising. Jason should have been washed. He wasn't a very good swimmer. I just love like that was a great monologue by Mrs. Voorhees. You know, like I just loved it so much. So obviously she's got some paranoid delusions, and she blames any counselor that works there. You know, you didn't have to be working there at the time. You could be in 1979, and you're still, you know, blamed for it. So revealing herself as the killer, she attempts to kill Alice. Let's go, child. It'll be easier this way. So they have a little bit of struggle, you know. Alice hides in like the pantry and then whaps Mrs. Voorhees on the head with the skillet, and then she finds the gun, but obviously the bullets are locked up. And then they have a little bit of a slap fight again, and then we get to the main finale. We're at the shore. They struggle until Alice is able to decapitate her, and that's such a great slow motion. Chops off the head, but what do we see? Toothpicks coming out of the neck that was holding it, and then hairy knuckles.
Hairy Knuckles.
Obviously, it wasn't Betsy Palmer, and she always joked about that. So again, so Alice, you know, she's exhausted. She gets in a canoe and passes out. And as I mentioned in the beginning, that musical score is just so calming and soothing. We see the police coming. I want to know how the police, why did they go? Unless they saw, I mean, like, is where that sign is, that's a good distance away from the main road there, Sampan Road. So it's like, why are they there? That's like the one plot hole. But hey, it's a 80s slasher movie. So then that's when we see Jason come out of the lake. Alice wakes up in hysterics at the hospital.
Maybe they came back to look for Ralph again.
Maybe. That's a good, okay, I'll give you that.
Because it was only one car. It's not like they sent the whole brigade, the whole fucking patrol in.
Oh, that was probably the whole police force.
Yeah, but
yeah. So, all right. So then we find out that they didn't find any body of a boy, and you know, she says, "Then he's still there." And then we have the leg roll. Yeah. And then it just goes into the ending credits. So distribution. So there was actually a bidding war over distribution rights to the film ensued in 1980 between Paramount Pictures, Warner Brothers, and United Artists. Paramount executive Frank Mancuso Sr. recalled, "The minute we saw Friday the 13th, we knew we had a hit." Paramount ultimately purchased domestic distribution rights for Friday the 13th for $1.5 million. Based on the success of recently released horror films such as Halloween and the low budget of the film, the studio deemed it a low-risk release in terms of profitability. It was the first independent slasher film to be acquired by a major motion picture studio. Paramount spent approximately $500,000 in advertisements for the film, and then an additional $500,000 when the film began performing well at the box office. A full one-sheet poster featuring a group of teenagers imposed beneath the silhouette of a knife-wielding figure was designed by artist Alex Ebel to promote the film's U.S. release. Scholar Richard Noel has observed that the poster and marketing campaign presented Friday the 13th as a lighthearted and youth-oriented horror film in an attempt to draw interest from America's prime theater-going demographic of young adults and teenagers. Warner Brothers secured distribution rights to the film in international markets. So it was first released on DVD in October 19th, 1999. The disc sold 32,497 units. It was also released on VHS, Laserdisc. I have this, God, what is it called? CED, which predated the Laserdisc, and it's really cool. A lot of people will buy them at like flea markets, and they're hang them up for like wall art. To get a player in working condition, it's costing as much as a 4K Blu-ray player. And the quality is like VHS quality, but it's really cool because it looks like a big scan disc, you know, and it's always double-sided. It's not, so basically Like, you know how like when you like we get a long movie and it's 2 VHS.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it was. So you would put it in, and then the thing on the inside takes the whatever it is inside, and then you pull it out, and then when it's time to watch the other part of the movie, you put it in, take it out, flip it over, put it back in. So the original release of Friday the 13th on VHS came in a clamshell box with Adrienne King, the scene where she's on the boat. That goes for buco bucks. I would love to get my hand on that. So in 2011, we got our first uncut Friday the 13th, but it just added a little bit more gore. You know, the MPA butchered all these films, so I would love to see the definitive uncut, but unfortunately we'll never get to see it. So in 2020, to celebrate the film's 40th anniversary, Shout Factory released a 4K scan of the original film, as well as parts 2 and 4 in a complete series box set. I'm that guy that when Friday the 13th comes out in a new box set, I buy a new one. So I had the whole set. I came out like in 2020, 2021. I have the individual Blu-rays, and then I have the steel books from they've done 1 through 4 now. And then I have the 4K of Friday the 13th, because that's really much all they could do as far as putting out new content because of the lawsuit. But now that that's over and done with, we'll get more content, hopefully. All right, so it did well at the box office. The critics panned it for what it was, but you know what? Money talks. The real critics, the moviegoers, said this was a great movie. All right, so this was actually pretty cool, that I didn't know about one of these things. So I know about the novelization in 1987, 7 years after the release of the motion picture. Simon Hawke produced a novelization of Friday the 13th. One of the few additions to the book was Mrs. Voorhees begging the Christie family to take her back after the loss of her son. They agreed. Another addition in the novel is more understanding of Mrs. Voorhees' actions. Hawke felt the character had attempted to move on when Jason died, but her psychosis got the best of her. When Steve Christie reopened the camp, Mrs. Voorhees saw it as a chance that what happened to her son could happen again. Her murders were against the counselors because she saw them all as responsible for Jason's death. The comic books. A number of scenes from the film were recreated in Friday the 13th, Pamela's Tale, a 2-issue comic book prequel released by Wildstorm in 2007. I do have part 1. It's, for whatever reason, it's so hard to find part 2. And the only way I can get part 2 is if I buy it with part 1, but I'm not about to spend $70. So this video game, I did not know about this video game. In 2007, Zendex released a game adaptation movie, Friday the 13th, for mobile phones. In the game, the player plays as Annie Phillips, but unlike in the first film, she doesn't die. One of the counselors at Camp Crystal Lake. While the staff is preparing a camp for its summer weekend, an unknown stalker begins murdering each of them. The player must discover the truth and escape the camp alive. I'm going to research that and see if it's still available. I doubt it is, but if I can find like a video of just like the gameplay, that's pretty cool. So there's our review of Friday the 13th.
Ooh, good job, brother.
Thank you.
And you kept it close to an hour. I didn't think that was happening.
Well, I told you I had to really water it down.
My bunny says young blood here.
I don't get that reference, Youngblood.
I don't know.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's a great movie. I may like Freddy more than Jason, but Jason's number 2 in my book.
I won't hold that against you because you're a good friend of mine, So we all have.
Hey, it could be 3rd and 4th and 5th, but he's number 2.
We all have our flaws. But Friday the 13th, okay, in your opinion, what movie set up the stereotype of the final girl? Was it Halloween or was it Friday the 13th?
I think Halloween set it up, but Friday the 13th made it on the map.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we didn't
Yeah.
really have the term. You just know there was a chick that made it out, and then like all the Friday the 13th movies had a final girl, and then Nightmares had a final girl, then all the Halloween.
Yeah, and pretty much if you were a male cast in a horror film, like
your ass was dead.
I mean, at least Nightmare on Elm Street, we had a final guy. You know.
Yeah, but there was still a girl too. So like,
yeah, but she wasn't the main character, but she was more badass than Jesse.
Yeah, she was a fucking movie. Yeah, I mean, I think Friday's more known for the final girl, and then Halloween's more known for like the brother-sister relationship, even though they tried to kill it. Am I so old?
She's me so Youngblood. There's a movie called Youngblood.
Maybe she's calling herself a young blood. I don't know.
Maybe. But yeah, so I'm excited for Friday the 13th.
I bet you are.
Just like how you are for haunt season.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's gonna be so much fun.
We're heading into week 5 of the haunt season this weekend. Good Lord.
Really? Week 5 already?
Yeah, man.
Get some start early, I guess. Yeah. So
it's a 9-week season, and we got to hit it as hard as we can.
And then you're going to cry when it's over.
For our first couple weeks, I'm going to be okay. And then I'm going to start fucking bitching. But then I get to hop into a Christmas haunt, a Valentine's haunt, a St. Patty's Day haunt, and then a halfway to Halloween haunt. And then there's that long 6-month wait of me just trying to find fucking content.
Yeah. Speaking of content, do you want to do a couple more movie reviews to finish out the month and then go into like what we were talking about? Like we're going to start going back to some true crime, and I'm going to work on the Curse of the Pharaohs.
Yeah. So this is going to drop the 9th. The 16th, we're going to do our follow-up from your Friday the 13th and Reapers. Okay. The 23rd, we were doing a Halloween-like movie. Remember?
Oh, yeah, we're doing Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat the 23rd.
Yeah.
And then, well, I thought we were doing Trick or Treat the 30th because it's the day before Halloween.
Right. So
we need something the 23rd. We'll think about that.
Yeah.
Let me write that down. Maybe we'll think of something different. But all right. Another fun episode in the books.
Yeah.
Guys, this has been the Horror Shed Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube. The 65 of you still watching. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, awesome.
We delete the live, so then it comes out as a full episode on Monday, but it's everything you just saw. So you got a sneak peek into next Monday's episode.
And for those who are watching right now, this Thursday, tomorrow night, our friends over at the Whole Damn Enchilada podcast are going to have, in my opinion, the godfather of Friday 13th fan films, a good friend of mine, Vince DeSanti. He's going to be talking about Never Hike Alone 2, which is coming out Friday the 13th. And I put in for